Hello and welcome to CATSweek. I'm Martin O'Neill. At the Monroe County Solid Waste Management District Board meeting on May 12th, Executive Director Tom McGlasson asked the board to approve the annual Monroe County Landfill Financial Assurance.
This an annual resolution we've done for the past number of years, but we are required to do an annual financial assurance update on the post-closure at the landfill, and due to some of the amount and the criteria involved, we've historically asked the county to make that demonstration on our behalf, and they graciously have over the years. And this resolution just is the board stating that they approve the district making that request of the county council.
The board approved the financial assurance unanimously. At the Bloomington City Common Council meeting on May 11th, Development Services Manager Jackie Scanlon asked the board to approve technical corrections to the Unified Development Ordinance. Scanlon outlined what some of the changes would be.
So the first change is that for the use multifamily dwelling, we are recommending for building floor plate that buildings with more than 20 units, that they be allowed a maximum floor plate, so the size of one floor, of 10,000 square feet by right. And that buildings that utilize either the affordable housing or sustainable incentives shall be allowed to increase to 15,000 square feet, and that if both incentives are used, they be allowed to increase to 30,000 square feet. So obviously you'll see tonight a pattern of some of the changes that we're proposing are to increase the use of incentives and their impact on development and the outcomes that we're seeking. Okay, so the next change that is discussed is increasing the separation requirement for the use student housing or dormitory from 300 feet to 900 feet in our two kind of multifamily residential districts, as well as the bulk of our mixed-use districts. So you can see that under 13B, from 300 to 900, and then adding that that if you choose to use one incentive, that only the separation of the two separate lots is required, no longer the separation if they're on one lot, and that if you choose to use two incentives, again, sustainability and affordable housing, in those applicable zoning districts, that there is no separation requirement.
She also explained how the changes would be used to help incentivize both sustainable and affordable development.
So again, that is current in the code, that if you use one, there is no maximum, and we're proposing to link that sort of kind of intense incentive to using both incentives, affordable and sustainable. We think that with the development we've seen, since this has been in place, that would be more appropriate and get us toward more of the outcomes we're kind of looking for.
Councilmember Sue Scambilleri asked if they have received feedback from developers about the incentives. Scanlon responded.
The most feedback we get is real-time discussions about buildings, and far and away, everyone wants to use the sustainable incentives and don't want to discuss affordable housing incentives. That's pretty much the base. So we do have, you'll recall, a project that was done with the affordable housing incentives very early on at 3rd. It's being built right now at 3rd and Grant on the north side. And that's great that we have not seen that proliferate in our other projects. So with these changes, and then ones you'll see later on in one of the other ordinances, we are trying to make it more likely that a developer will explore both options to be able to build the size that they seem to need to make that work.
Director of Planning and Transportation Scott Robinson added that they are responding to development trends.
Thanks for the question. And you know, I say what the intent of a lot of these is our approach to keep the UDO relevant, and we're responding to what we're seeing in the development trends from cases that come through our office and feedback. So any direct like, hey, what do you guys think of this? It's more of staff evaluating and trying to align that with our goals with both sustainability and affordability. And so we recognize that. And so that's why many of these changes you see tonight are more of staff's evaluation on types of projects that we're getting in And how do we align that with both the city's comprehensive goals, council's goals on sustainability, affordability, design, and all the things that we strive to do to have a quality, well-built urban environment. So with that said, what we've been seeing with the current UDO is the trend is in those conversations with developers, they're not even interested in discussing affordable housing incentives. They're not good enough. Sustainability is great, but maybe they're a little too easy to get. So how are we going to recalibrate those? And so this is in concert with some stuff you're seeing in Chapter 4. So what we're seeing now is we'll do sustainability for the trade-offs of how we define student housing to get the incentives in the districts, as Jackie explained with the floor plates. But secondly, if we could recalibrate that, so what's happening now is it's a either or. We'll just do sustainability and we're not going to discuss about affordability. What we hope to do with this change is get a win-win, like you can pick to choose sustainability or affordability and you get a little bump of an incentive. But if you do both, you get a big bump. And that's what we're trying to do with these incentives that you'll also see in Chapter 4 is that we hope with that change, they can still do an either or and get a little bit of a bump in the floor plate or the other things that we're looking to do. But if they do both, a win-win, both affordability and sustainability, then I think that's what we're trying to achieve with these.
The council voted to pass the ordinance changes unanimously. At the Bloomington Commission on Sustainability meeting on May 10th, Council ex officio member Matt Flaherty shared that the City Council approved a local income tax increase and explained what that means for Bloomington's climate action plan.
Final note, I guess, on the process is that, this is all set by state. I wish we could have progressive taxation of local income taxes. I wish we could approach things a little bit differently from a process perspective and vis-a-vis our relationships with county and other town councils. But the process is what it is. I think it's still, much more in the community's interest to invest in addressing climate preparedness in a way that we wouldn't otherwise be able to. Same thing with transit. I think that's really important. Our city of Indianapolis is a good example. A few years back, passed a 0.25% increment increase in their local income tax to do a similar type of investment in transit, which has enabled the Red Line and now the Purple Line that they're developing. So bus rapid transit up in Indy. While some folks are obviously naturally inclined to oppose tax increases and or sort of default to only the public safety policing sort of traditional core services of cities, again, I think this was the right approach. It had unanimous support from the City Council ultimately. And while the County Council wasn't weighing in directly at the same time, I had conversations with 6 of the 7 County Council members, all of whom agreed there was a need for new revenue on their end as well, for Justice Center and similar programmatic reasons, although they were a little less suited at this point in time to articulate exactly what those costs will be, and maybe a little less inclined to engage in the weeds of that process with us. So I just wanted to acknowledge that, there's, of course, the process wasn't without opposition, and there are some process limitations and other constraints that undermine our ability to do exactly what we want to do with those types of things.
Commission President Joseph Winya asked how the local income tax is distributed to the city when the local income tax is for the whole county. Flaherty explained that they look at population numbers to decide the percentage of the income tax they receive.
Yeah, there's a formula breakdown that's based on, there's actually different ways to approach it. We opted for a population-based approach, which to me is the most logical for an income tax, which is tied to people and populations, of course. So it's not actually directly tied to individuals and where the individuals live. Rather, it's like 58% of the population of Monroe County lives in the city of Bloomington. Therefore, we get 58% of the local income tax share. Okay. And similar to other units, Steinsville, Ellettsville, and Monroe County government.
Next, Assistant Director of Sustainability, Laura Clemens, gave a presentation on the Climate Action Plan to inform the new board members what the Commission has been working on and what they will be working on moving forward. And we'll have more from CATSweek right after this.
I'm at risk of thinking there's just no point in trying.
I'm at risk of looking in the mirror
and hating what I see.
I'm at risk of regretting what I do, just to join the crowd.
I'm at risk of being told not to tell. And you would never know it by looking at me. But with Girls Inc. in my corner, there for me every day, believing in me,
Showing me what's possible.
I can be strong enough to respect myself and my body, to say I can rather than I can't,
To say no with no apology.
to be a leader, to finish school,
To own my future.
to break the cycle.
Girls Inc. believes every girl can succeed. That's why the trained professionals of Girls Inc. are there for our girls every day, supporting, mentoring, and guiding them in a safe, girls-only environment. Building bonds that last for years and change that lasts a lifetime. Girls Inc. gives girls the tools they need to boldly face challenges, to resist peer pressure, to be the first in their families to go to college, to beat the odds. With Girls Inc. in her corner, every girl can be healthy, confident, and resilient. She'll do more than dream about her potential. She'll reach it.
With you in my corner. With you in my corner, I will not be another statistic. I will fight for myself.
For my future.
With you in my corner, I will win.
Fuel her fire and she will change the world. Girls Inc. Inspiring all girls to be strong, smart, and bold.
Welcome back to CATSweek. At the Monroe County Commissioners meeting on May 11th, Health Department Population Health and Outreach Manager Kathy Hewitt updated the commissioners on Monroe County's COVID-19 levels.
So the increase in COVID cases is still continuing. Transmission is currently high. The good news is that the severe disease, hospitalizations, and deaths remain low. Our CDC community level may move from low this week to medium next week due to the elevated transmissions. The CDC recommendations for medium level include get vaccinated, test as needed, and talk to your provider about masks and other precautions that you can take. The biggest driver for the change in levels is hospitalization. And like I said, our current hospitalizations remain low. Per the CDC tracker, only 2% of our staffed hospital beds have patients with confirmed COVID. And our COVID admissions, our new COVID admissions is 1.8 per 100,000 people. So these community levels are updated every Thursday. So we have been getting some questions about isolation guidelines. So we wanted to provide some clarification. After testing positive for COVID-19, you start your isolation period the day after your positive test. If you were asymptomatic when you tested and you develop symptoms after your positive test, your isolation period restarts the day after your symptoms started. Now you can end your isolation at the end of day 5, and that's if your symptoms are improving and you've had no fever for the last 24 hours, but you must wear a mask through day 10. If your symptoms are not improving, or if you take a rapid test and it's still coming up positive on day 5, you must remain isolated through day 10. So we also wanted to take a minute to remind everybody that to remember to stay up to date, not just on COVID vaccinations, but all your vaccinations. So take a little time and check your vaccine records and then make a plan to get caught up on everything.
Also at the meeting, Monroe County Detective Alex Hahn asked the commissioners to approve funding to help identify a skeleton found in 2004. Hahn said that he received a quote from a well-respected laboratory named Othram for $5,756.
As stated, I'm requesting no more than $7,000 for genetic genealogy funding. This is in reference to a case from 2004. Skeletal remains of an unknown male were found in a remote area of Monroe County. Not only are these remains unidentified, but they also show evidence of a homicide, pretty clear evidence of a homicide. I've become somewhat familiar with this genetic genealogy process, and I believe that doing this will, if nothing else, identify this unidentified male. I've tried, it's been 18 years. We've tried looking through missing persons reports, following up on with other agencies on their missing persons and whatnot, and none of those have checked out. So this is where I'm at right now, and this is really the last option, the last hope to identify this male and solve this, identify the male and then work the homicide case.
Commissioner Julie Thomas shared her approval of the work Han is trying to do.
This is an interesting way to pursue justice and also to help his friends and family who are out there somewhere. So I appreciate the effort that you're taking. Really great.
The commissioners approved the fund request unanimously. On May 10th, at the Monroe County Council meeting, Council President Kate Wiltz took a moment to acknowledge the passing of County Property Administrator Susie Johnson.
I'd also like to note that today's a sad day for county government. We lost one of our longtime beloved employees, Susie Johnson, who's our county property administrator, passed away this morning. And she truly was a joy to everyone who worked with her. And I only met her a couple of times, and she was amazing. She was talented at what she did, and you could tell she really loved her job. And so she's a great loss to our community and her extended family. And I'd like to just take a moment and remember her and honor her for just silence for a few minutes.
Also at the meeting, Monroe County Commissioner Penny Giffens asked the councillors to approve funding for a pre-K school readiness program she and council members Peter Iverson and Cheryl Munson have been working on.
Councillor Munson and Councillor Iverson and I have been meeting with individuals associated with the Community Foundation in Bloomington and Monroe County about the preschool situation here and childcare here in Monroe County. COVID has done its number on childcare issues. And so there is demand for getting kids ready for kindergarten. So what Jennifer Meyer of the Community Foundation has done is she's reached out and she has been able to identify places where kids could have sort of an experience that would get them ready for kindergarten. I call it an enhancement for kindergarten. And it would be a few weeks before they actually start kindergarten. One of them will be in Ellettsville. It's being run by the Boys and Girls Club out there. And they are looking to do just, I don't know what to call it, just an incredible preschool experience for these kids. They'll be there multiple hours a day. They're going to be teaching them social skills and school readiness skills. They are looking to do this for 20 kids, and that's in addition to some of the kids that have been going to their preschool program out there already. So high demand. Then also MCCSC is offering a program for 3 weeks prior to the start of kindergarten, again, like the exact 3 weeks beforehand. The kids will be there from 9 till 4, which would be the typical hours that they would be there if they're there for a full day. And so it's again, a lot that we need to go over, but the MCCSC kids, what they need is at one of the locations, and they're offering it at 6 out of the 7 elementary schools that have Title I students in them. And at one of the schools, they don't have quite the funding they need for supplies and for food for the kids. So I'm here today to ask that the council consider supplying $26,965.25 to the Boys and Girls Club program out in Ellettsville, and a total of $15,731.10 to the MCCSC program.
The council approved the program with American Rescue Plan Act funding unanimously. And we'll have more from CATSweek right after this.
for hurting families in Monroe County.
A contribution to children who are vulnerable and in need of an advocate.
A staff that goes above and beyond to support and advocate for children in need of services.
The web of remarkable people who are dealing with difficult situations.
So many young people that are in need of help and trying to find a stable family, a stable place to live. Without the CASAs to make that happen, many of them would be unable to find a good home.
I love being that voice for the child who can't speak for themselves in court.
It takes me out of my comfort zone, and it also helps others.
CASA means supporting our community.
Being a CASA is making sure that your village is healthy and whole, and that the children in your village will someday be able to help the village as well.
A child who doesn't have a voice, maybe in their family situation or a school situation, now has a voice that can advocate for them.
I really enjoy working with children that are going through difficult times and letting them know that I care about their future.
We are privileged with our charge of representing the best interest of children. And so therefore we can advocate for exactly what they need without restriction, focusing on their best interest.
I want to repair the world one child at a time.
Welcome back to CATSweek. The Bloomington Board of Park Commissioners held a special session on May 9th to discuss approving parks' general obligation bonds. Director Paula McDevitt said that it is recommended that the commissioners approve the bonds.
And we are here this afternoon to recommend that after the Board of Park Commissioners received public comment at the legally advertised public hearing back on April 26th, and then any additional public comment that would have been received here at today's meeting, it is recommended that you approve the final adopt the final bond resolution 2203 to authorize the issuance of park district bonds in order to promote climate change and implement equity and quality of life for all. And we have two guests here, staff members here this afternoon, that will briefly highlight the projects that they are also found on the on my staff report in the order of projects that are part of the bond package. So I would like to turn it over first to Tim Street.
Operations Development Director Tim Street and Assistant Director of Planning and Transportation Beth Rosenbarger presented the projects that the bonds would fund.
The first project, Kim, if you go to the next slide, is to replace the missing section of Rogers Street sidewalk along the east side of Rogers Street near Switchyard Park. Estimated cost is about $200,000. Next slide.
Next, I'm Beth Rosenbarger, Assistant Director of Planning and Transportation Department. The next project is along West 2nd Street. It includes building a protected bike lane from Walker traveling east to the B line. It also includes signal replacements, and the money requested $1.5 million is matching federal funding that is going to be used to fund this project as well.
The Park Commissioners unanimously voted to approve the general obligation bonds. On May 9th, at the Ellisville Town Council, President of the Senior Housing Board, Jeff Bishop, asked the council to allow the senior citizens' new housing development to pay the sewer hook-on fee they initially agreed to. Town Manager and Utilities Operation Manager Mike Farmer explained to the council how hook-on fees are calculated.
When we calculate a commercial, falls under commercial, a commercial hook-on fee, it's based on equivalent dwelling units. And so a normal house is $1,500. And so we calculate, because how many rooms they have, how many equivalent EDUs they have, and then it's times $1,500. So we calculated that back in 4/20/21. So I think there was a delay getting started on the project. I don't know the details, but at some point, the project started, and they weren't hooked onto the sewer. They went through several months where hooking onto the sewer was not an issue or consideration. And I finally got a call from the people that are leading the way for the senior housing project, and they wondered why they never got billed. And I said, well, we don't bill you, you sign up, and usually it's when you get your water, and we never thought we don't bill you, we just, when you want to hook on, then that's when we usually come at you for the money. So the amount was discussed and relayed to Dennis, and I mean, it was originally $53,226. And so they've come hat in hand and said, hey, since since we were told what it was about, and since nobody paid for it, I think there was a real bad communications between all parties. They've asked that we not insist that they pay the new $2,500 fee per EDU. So that would have raised it to $88,000 and some change. I'm sorry, I don't have it, but it's $88,000 plus. And so what they're asking for is for us to honor the original connection fee stated and move on. So
The council approved the change to revert to the original price unanimously. And that's all for CATSweek. Thanks for joining us. For CATS and WFHB, I'm Martin O'Neill.